Well, thanks so much for joining us for our ABC 10 election night streaming special. We're going to bring in again our panel of experts, Democratic strategist Andrew Acosta and Republican strategist Rob Stutzman. We want to talk now about, okay, what could happen next? The deck is being reshuffled here. Eyes are looking at the possibilities of where these districts could move. Rob, we'll start with you. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, so Alex has laid out these districts and the focus on Kevin Kiley and what happens to his seat, because it's one of the ones they've tried to erase. The Democrats have tried to make that a Democrat seat. I think he can still be competitive, whether he runs in the current number district, the third, or he can move to this new district, the sixth. Ami Bera will run in one or the other. Ami might make the move first and try to stare Kiley down on where to run. Or Kiley still has another option, which for Republicans would be unfortunate, but that would be go primary Tom McClintock on that Eastern Sierra seat that Alex laid out for us. So there is a lot that will happen, and I think will start to happen very quickly in terms of these musical chairs or the Rubik's Cube of where candidates will start slotting into what seats.
You know, it almost creates a Hunger Games type style of things, right?
Right.
Where everyone is out, kind of every man, every woman for himself. And you were saying even some of the local candidates and local officials might start jumping in.
Yeah, you know, these districts don't come open often, and as we just heard, they're only going to be there for 3 years, and then or three cycles, and then we redistrict again. But it doesn't stop candidates from running, and there's a lot of politicians who are like, "Hey, why not take a shot?" You know, and you know, Congress is a much different level of interest than, you know, running for state assembly or Senate. Like, people don't really care about who their legislative, you know, representative is, but they definitely care about who's going to go to D.C. and fight Trump. You know, so you could see. I think the scenario in the next week could be very fascinating to see when Bera makes a decision, what Kiley's decision is, and then what the bell goes off and everyone starts to run in those open seats.
Okay, so here's the thing. We've kind of established that we expect this to pass. Politico tried to make the case today, though, that it was a matter of margin, that if they don't really run up the margins, that they can't really proclaim success, that they need to have a double-digit, you know, lead, if you will. Do you agree with that, or is a win a win?
I think a win's a win. I mean, if this passes with 51 or 2%, which would be below the expectations, they'll take some of the wind out of this victory Newsom's going to have. But a win's a win. The maps will be redrawn with any margin over 50%. So I don't think that matters that much. And we are seeing on the East Coast results that Democrats are winning in blue states. Those are all New York City, Virginia, New Jersey, all places where Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump. But the margins look like they're pretty healthy for Democrats.
Now wait a minute with Virginia. Now I worked in Richmond. Virginia is a different. It's kind of capital of the Confederacy there in Virginia. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know, it's a typical purple. I don't know if people say it's blue.
But there is a Republican governor there.
Right.
You know, so
and popular Republican governor. I think he has like 57%.
Which is a little different than what you've seen in New Jersey, where there was an unpopular Democratic governor. You know, so I think there's a little bit of a story to be told in all these places. But I think, to Rob's point, Democrats look like they're having a good night across the board, and it'll be a rejection of Trump. And this whole campaign in California was all about Donald Trump, right? I mean, there's no way you could not think, like, what are we doing here?
It was very clear in the messaging.
All the
messaging ads
was
that
pretty
we've been
simple.
seeing.
If you don't like Donald Trump, this is the way to go show him, right? Stick it to him here. And you know, so I don't think anybody really sort of was confused at the end of the day. Now, I doubt if they were looking at the maps like Alex was showing us, but they definitely figured out, you know, this is Newsom versus Trump. And if it's 55-45, you know, I mean, the recall, Gavin Newsom defeated the recall, it was almost 60-40. Now, does it get to that high? You know, we'll have to see. But I think, you know, his popularity, Gavin Newsom's popularity, his favorables are right, mid-50s. So I could definitely see this hitting that number, mid-50s.
Can he keep that going?
Well, I mean, you know, to Rob's point, next year he has to go back to being governor, right? There'll be bad budgets. He'll continue to fight Trump. He has to deal with the Democrats in the legislature on a bunch of issues. They know he's a lame duck. So we'll have to see if he can keep it going.
And Californians have grown tired traditionally of him being over-involved in national politics. And so are they really ready to just let him go run for president without tending to the day job where there's a lot of issues to deal with.
Right. You've been talking a lot with voters as well. Do you think that they've been a little bit left out in the dust as far as Newsom being really front and center on the national stage?
Look, I think his favorables are up, as Andrew has said. We're seeing that in a lot of private polling that he and I get to look at. And it's really from Democrats. Democrats, again, are so desperate to win and to fight back against Trump. They feel so helpless. And he has given them an outlet with this. And so that'll be a sugar high, I think, that lasts here for a little bit. But eventually you got to come back to governing, and voters will say, yeah, that's great. You're taking on Trump, but what about homelessness, traffic, crime, schools, et cetera?
Okay, we got the countdown going here. We're just minutes away from polls closing. Talk to me about what you make of the fact that we've had people lining up for this special election. The fact that you have, even now at this time of night in Placer County, for example, people wrapped around the building. So many times you have these special elections, it's hard to even get people engaged, right? You know,
hopefully they stay in line. Hopefully they stay.
Yeah, there seems to be a level of engagement this time around.
I think what we've seen over the last few cycles is this ebb and flow of do voters trust the all-mail voting? And clearly Donald Trump has told his Republican supporters, don't trust it. So you do see people who are now lining up. They're probably more conservative, they're probably Republican, and they're going to make sure their vote counts by walking in and voting. So it's hard to say, you know, anecdotally, is turnout going to be amazing? I mean, they're reporting 40% in Sac County. You know, again, the recall had a 58% turnout when it was on the ballot, and it was the only thing on the ballot. I don't know if we'll get that high in this. I think, what's the latest?
It was 30% this morning statewide with mail ballots returned. I think it's a hard time getting to 58.
So, yeah, there are people who, you know, procrastinate, show up late, the dog ate their homework, whatever, right? And you see some of that, but I don't think it's going to be, you know, I think we'll have a pretty good handle, hopefully soon, if they can, you know, get the ballots counted quickly, and we're not waiting and doing this 3 weeks from now.
Okay, that's the other question, right? Like how, you know, how declarative do you think this is going to be tonight?
I expect it'll be declarative. I think the margin will be large enough. Most of the ballots will be counted tonight throughout the state, and I think the margin will be large enough that there won't be any question.
Okay, and we are less than a minute away from the polls closing. I'm seeing 40 seconds right now. But thank you, gentlemen. Always insightful. Our team is sticking around for more insight. We do want to get out live. Our team has been spread across the area. Our team coverage continues tonight.
Yeah, that's right. ABC 10's Becca Hubbecker is live at the California Democratic headquarters in downtown Sacramento, where we are now. There we have it. At 8 o'clock. The polls have closed. Becca, talk to us about what they're expecting there at the Democratic headquarters tonight.
Yeah, well, Chris and Laura, as we just heard from the political analysts, Democrats here are feeling optimistic, excited, and hopeful. I mean, they think this is going to pass for all the reasons that your analysts talked about. I mean, the folks here, they're citing polling, they're citing the makeup of early voters so far. You know, of course, we don't know the results of people who voted in person quite yet, but any second here, the county elections offices are going to be releasing the results of the mail-in ballots, the early voting. You know, I spoke with Paul Mitchell. He is the person who redrew the maps for Prop 50. He's also a political data analyst, and he said that he anticipates not only Prop 50 passing, but he kind of came with a warning. He said, look, when the polls close, we're probably going to see a huge landslide win for Prop 50. He says that gap will probably close. We'll probably see it narrow a little bit, but he still thinks Prop 50 is going to pass by a decisive margin. He believes that the race will be called tonight. You know, unlike previous elections here in California, where sometimes close races we can wait weeks for the results, that doesn't appear to be the case here tonight. That is not what is anticipated. You know, Paul Mitchell, he told me that, you know, Prop 50, of course, is set to change the maps for the next 3 election cycles. Critics have worried that California will make those maps permanent. So I did ask Mitchell, you know, why he believes the governor's commitment that we will return to the independent redistricting commission after the 2030 census. Here's what he has to say.
This campaign spent over $100 million to convince voters in this crazy existential crisis of a president going into Texas and doing all this stuff, all this national redistricting wars we've never seen before. There was this ability to get voters to know they're going to come back to the commission and support a redraw. You couldn't get voters to just vote to eliminate the commission.
And he says that's because early polling on the potential of eliminating the Independent Redistricting Commission was about 12%. He says Californians like and want the Independent Redistricting Commission. He says this was a matter, as we've heard from Democrats, since this summer when Governor Newsom first announced this initiative of fighting fire with fire, of directly countering Texas's attempt to redraw its successful attempt to redraw its commission, its congressional maps. They're trying to flip 5 seats red. California's trying to flip 5 seats blue. I did speak, by the way, with Congressman Ami Bera, a Democrat representing District 6, if Prop 50 passes and if it is successful. Bera his district will be split in 2. So he says he'll announce tonight whether he will run in District 3, his current District 6, or he will challenge incumbent Republican Kevin Kiley in District 3 if Prop 50 passes. So that is an announcement that will come from Bera if we learn that Prop 50 passes tonight. And we are also anticipating that perhaps Governor Newsom will be here at the California Democratic Party headquarters in Sacramento now that polls have closed. So we are awaiting that possibility and to hear what he has to say. So for now, I'm Becca Habiger live in Sacramento, potentially awaiting words from the governor. Chris and Laura.
That's something that we will bring to you live if and when it happens. Our Becca Habiger, we thank you for that live update. Our team coverage continues tonight now that the polls are closed.
Yeah, so let's get an update with ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen. She is live at the California GOP headquarters in downtown Sacramento. Jeannie, I understand you have a live interview with us, but first bring us up to speed on what's going on at where you are. What's the mood now?
Good evening, Chris and Laura. The energy is picking up here at the California GOP headquarters, and I'm joined with Chairwoman Corinne Rankin. Polls just closed 3 minutes ago. How are you feeling right now?
Well, we've been here since 7 a.m. this morning. We've been making calls to all the Republicans, reminding them to get out and vote Prop 50. We're hearing that in Southern California and Los Angeles and San Diego, there's about 30-minute lines. So we're just waiting. We want to make sure that every vote gets counted, and we're just anticipating, waiting to see what the numbers come in.
We are hearing. I'm hearing right now. I'm sorry, from my producer right now that ABC and AP have called the election and said Prop 50 passed. I know you're about to make remarks, and I don't want to get ahead here, but just early projections have said that Prop 50 will pass here. And that being said, what is the work for the California Republican Party moving forward even after today?
Well, first of all, I think that it's important that we recognize the fact that this is not a Republican-Democrat issue. It is true that we think differently on this issue, but this is a political insider, career politicians versus the people of California.
And what do you want voters to know, following this evening?
I would like voters to know that our independent redistricting commission here in California is something that California voters have valued for decades, and it would be really nice to keep it. I think it's the gold standard, and that other states should follow what we're doing here. And I don't think that we should have been put in a position where we are following the lead of what other states are doing.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rankin. This is California GOP Chairwoman Corinne Rankin. Of course, she is expected to make remarks shortly. We will obviously be covering that. For now, live at the California GOP headquarters, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.